All right, welcome in everybody. Ready for another deep dive?
Definitely. Always ready for a good deep dive.
Okay, awesome. So today, we're going to be diving into the story of the Amazon Labor Union.
The ALU.
Yeah, the ALU and their fight to unionize the JFK 8 warehouse on Staten Island,
All
right?
right.
So our main source for this is the documentary Union.
Great documentary.
Yeah, and it really it takes us like right inside, the whole movement.
Right into the heart of it.
Yeah. And one of the things I found really interesting was that this wasn't like a quick victory.
Yeah.
This was a real like struggle.
Yeah, years in the making.
Yeah, against like, one of the most powerful companies.
In the world. On the planet. Exactly.
One of the things that I think is so compelling about the documentary is that it doesn't shy away from showing how complex it was.
Yeah.
It wasn't a simple good guys versus bad guys.
Right.
We see the internal tensions, the strategic challenges,
Yeah.
and the sheer grit that it took to take on a company like Amazon. Yeah, and speaking of Amazon, I think will be helpful for our listener if we set the scene a little bit. Can you describe the JFK 8 warehouse?
Sure.
What was it like for the workers there?
Okay, so imagine a massive warehouse.
Okay.
Over 855,000 square feet.
That's huge.
It's enormous. Filled with these endless rows of shelves, just this constant hum of activity.
Wow.
Now, picture workers starting their shifts
Okay.
in the dead of night. 1 a.m., 3 a.m., even 6 a.m.
Wow.
Many having endured these long, cramped bus rides
Ugh.
just to get there.
So grueling even before they clocked in.
It was, yeah.
And actually, the documentary shows those like early morning bus rides, and you
Yes.
can feel the exhaustion,
Yes.
the frustration, like just from those scenes. It's a small detail, but it really sets the stage for the whole story.
Totally.
Yeah.
And that's also where you see the dedication of these organizers, because they would actually meet workers at the bus stops,
Oh, wow.
sometimes before sunrise,
Really?
to talk about the union. They knew that those moments when people are kind of coming and going,
Yeah.
those were crucial opportunities to connect.
Smart. So how did the Amazon Labor Union, or ALU, cut into existence? Was there a single event?
Yeah, you could say that. It all kind of begins in the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic,
Oh, okay.
a time of, fear and uncertainty for everyone.
Definitely.
The documentary introduces us to Chris Smalls,
Okay. Yeah.
who was a worker at JFK 8
Uh-huh.
and became deeply concerned about the lack of safety precautions at the warehouse.
Yeah.
And this wasn't just theoretical for him.
Right.
He was seeing how workers were being put at risk.
It takes a lot of courage to speak up against an employer, especially one as powerful as Amazon.
Absolutely.
What happened when Smalls raised these concerns?
So in March 2020, he organized a walkout
Oh, wow.
to protest the conditions.
Okay.
And as you might expect, Amazon fired him,
Yeah.
claiming that he violated quarantine policy.
Hmm.
But a lot of people saw that as retaliation for speaking out.
Yeah, I can see why. So this firing, like this is a crucial turning point
Absolutely.
in the story.
Yeah.
From fired worker to union leader. That's quite a transformation.
It really is. He could have easily just walked away,
Yeah.
but instead he channeled his anger into action and co-founded the ALU with Derek Palmer,
Okay.
who was another worker who had experienced that lack of safety firsthand.
Okay, so the documentary doesn't just focus on Chris Smalls, though, right?
No, not at all.
It also highlights the stories of other workers
Yes.
who became key figures in the ALU. Can you tell us a bit about Connor Spence,
Sure.
the current ALU president?
Connor Spence is a fascinating figure. He's incredibly strategic, like always thinking 10 steps ahead.
Oh,
You see him a lot in the documentary on his phone, even during his commute,
really?
constantly working, planning, connecting with people.
Hmm.
He was really instrumental in countering Amazon's tactics.
Interesting. What about Angelica Maldonado?
Oh, yeah.
What was her story?
So Angelica Maldonado had been working at Amazon for years,
Okay.
and her mother had been involved in unions.
Oh, wow.
So she understood the power of collective action.
Hmm.
For her, this was personal.
Yeah.
She knew how hard the work was and wanted to make things better.
So it seems like the ALU was made up of people from all walks of life, right?
Absolutely.
Each with their own kind of motivations for
Yeah.
joining this fight. Can you tell us about Madeline Wesley
Yes.
and how she got involved?
Madeline Wesley is interesting because she represents a new generation
Okay.
of organizers, right?
Right.
She was a recent college grad
Mm.
who actually got a job at Amazon,
Really?
specifically to help with the unionization effort.
Wow.
She was what's called a SALT.
Assault.
Mm,
So she intentionally went undercover, so to speak, to organize from within.
that's right.
Yeah.
That's bold.
It was risky, but it shows their level of commitment
Yeah.
that these organizers had.
They were willing to put themselves on the line to make a difference.
It sounds like the ALU was really a grassroots effort,
It was.
fueled by the passion and the dedication of all these individuals,
Yeah.
but they were facing a massive opponent
Oh, yeah.
in Amazon, right?
Yeah.
What were some of the biggest challenges that they encountered?
Well, I mean, Amazon wasn't just going to sit back and let this happen.
Right.
They deployed a multi-pronged strategy to try to defeat the union.
Mm.
For instance, they challenged the validity
Okay.
of hundreds of signed union cards,
Oh, wow.
claiming that they were forged or coerced.
Did that tactic work?
They claimed that over 700 cards were invalid,
Gosh.
which could have potentially derailed the entire election.
Yeah.
So this is actually a common tactic in anti-union campaigns because it creates doubt
Uh-huh.
and it can delay the process significantly.
Wow, that's a significant number. What else did Amazon do to try and, sway the vote?
I mean, they had a lot of resources at their disposal. They held those mandatory captive audience meetings
Okay, yeah?
where workers had to listen to anti-union presentations. They hired consultants
Okay.
who specialized in union avoidance.
Wow.
They even had lawyers monitoring the ALU's every move.
Wow. That's intense.
They were taking this very seriously.
It sounds like it. So how did the ALU respond to all of this?
Right.
Did they have any counter strategies?
Well, they had to get creative
Right.
and resourceful. One of the things that they did that was really effective was just talking to workers one-on-one,
Okay.
building relationships and addressing their concerns directly.
Makes sense.
They knew they couldn't match Amazon's money
Yeah.
or influence,
Right.
so they focused on building personal connections.
Sounds like they were really trying to create a sense of community, a
Yeah.
feeling that they were all in this together.
Absolutely.
Did they have any organized events or gatherings?
Yes, they did.
With the
They would hold these late-night cookouts
Okay.
outside the warehouse, grilling food, playing music,
Nice.
creating a space where workers could just relax and talk freely,
Oh, that's cool.
a way to build solidarity outside of the pressures of the workplace.
That's a great way to counter those captive audience meetings.
Yes.
I'm curious, though, did they ever feel discouraged? It must have been daunting to
So,
go up against Amazon.
I mean, there were definitely moments of doubt,
Yeah.
but they were fueled by this belief that they were fighting for something important,
Yeah.
something bigger than themselves.
Right.
They saw firsthand the toll that these conditions were taking
Mhm.
on their colleagues,
Yeah.
and they were determined to make a change.
So despite all of these challenges,
Yeah.
the ALU persisted, they pushed forward,
Mm-hmm.
and eventually they had to face the biggest hurdle of all, the union election. That must have been a tense time.
Oh, incredibly tense. Oh, yeah, you could cut the tension with a knife.
Yeah.
You had this energy of hope, but also like a lot of anxiety.
Right.
Workers were nervous
Of course.
about retaliation from Amazon, but also like excited
Yeah.
about the possibility of real change.
Yeah.
The ALU had done an amazing job of like mobilizing people and getting them to the polls.
Yeah. So in the end, they won
They
a
did.
historic victory
Okay.
in March 2022.
It was huge.
Yeah, the documentary captures that moment so well.
Yeah.
Like the eruption of cheers, the relief,
Yeah.
the accomplishment. It must have felt like a total David versus Goliath moment.
Oh, for sure. It was electrifying.
Yeah.
You could see the years of work and sacrifice just like culminating
Yeah.
in that single moment.
Wow.
And it's the first time
Right.
that an Amazon warehouse in the U.S. had voted to unionize.
Yeah. And there's that great scene where Chris Smalls is celebrating and he shouts,
Mm-hmm.
we want to thank Jeff Bezos for going to space because while he was up there, we were signing people up.
I love that.
What a statement.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It just captured the ALU's whole spirit, defiant, determined,
Yeah.
and ultimately victorious.
Mm-hmm. They had faced down, one of the most powerful corporations in the world.
Yeah.
And come out on top. But winning the election, that was just the beginning.
Exactly. The real fight
Yeah.
for a fair contract,
Yeah.
for lasting change,
Mm-hmm.
that was still ahead.
And I'm sure Amazon wasn't going to make it easy.
Not at all. In fact, they immediately challenged the results.
Oh, wow.
They filed objections with the National Labor Relations Board.
So even after that decisive vote.
Mm.
There was still such a long road ahead.
Yeah, for sure.
What were some of the key issues that the ALU wanted to address in these contract negotiations?
Well, they were fighting for, better pay,
Of course, yeah.
safer working conditions,
Hmm.
more reasonable productivity quotas.
Okay, yeah.
They wanted to address things like scheduling,
Hmm.
disciplinary procedures,
Makes sense.
which they felt were often unfair and arbitrary. They really wanted to give workers a real voice
Right.
in how the warehouse was run.
It sounds like they were trying to address not just those like big picture economic issues,
Right.
but also those day-to-day realities
Exactly.
of working at a place like JFK 8.
Yeah, they understood that improving the quality of life for workers
Yeah,
meant tackling those smaller, everyday issues.
right.
It wasn't just about wages, but about creating a workplace where people felt respected
Mm-hmm.
and valued.
That makes sense. It sounds incredibly complex, though.
Oh,
Trying to negotiate a contract
Yeah.
that covers all of those issues.
yeah.
Did they have any experience with that?
Well, you have to remember,
Mhm.
this was a grassroots movement made
Okay.
up of, mostly warehouse workers,
Mm-hmm.
not seasoned negotiators.
Yeah.
They were learning as they went.
Oh,
They had advice from labor lawyers and other unions,
Mm-hmm.
but they were determined to make their own voices heard.
And on the other side of the table, you have Amazon
Yeah.
with their vast legal resources
Right.
and a history of resisting unions.
Mm-hmm.
It must have felt like a very uneven playing field.
It did, yeah. And to make things even more challenging,
Oh, gosh.
the ALU was navigating some internal changes during this time.
Oh, right.
Remember Connor Spence?
Yeah, the strategist.
Right, he became president in July of 2022,
Yeah, yeah.
taking over from Chris Smalls.
That's right. The documentary touches on that a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't go into too much detail.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about that transition?
Okay.
Was it smooth?
It wasn't entirely smooth, let's put it that way. There were some tensions,
Okay.
some disagreements about how to move forward.
Of course.
Smalls had been this charismatic face
Yeah.
of the movement,
Right.
but Spence brought this different approach,
Okay.
more focused on internal organization
Yeah.
and long-term strategy.
So not just battling Amazon.
Yeah.
But also working through internal dynamics. Yeah.
Leadership changes.
Mhm.
That must have been incredibly demanding.
It was a lot to handle.
Yeah.
Especially while trying to negotiate this contract
All right.
with one of the world's most powerful corporations.
Yeah.
And they were also trying to support
Right.
similar unionization efforts
Yeah.
at other Amazon warehouses.
Yeah. It's amazing how quickly this movement spread.
Yeah,
We've been focusing on JFK 8,
right.
but this is clearly part of something much larger.
Yeah.
What was the impact of the ALU's victory
Okay.
on other Amazon workers?
I mean, it was a huge morale boost
Yeah.
for workers everywhere.
Right.
Showed that even a company like Amazon could be challenged.
Yeah.
It was possible to fight back and win.
Wow.
It inspired workers at warehouses in Alabama,
Mhm.
Bessemer, other locations to start their own efforts.
I can see why that would be so inspiring.
Yeah,
If it can happen at JFK 8,
right.
maybe it can happen anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But as we know, Amazon has continued to push back
Right.
against these efforts. Right.
Yeah.
They've poured millions of dollars
Mhm.
into anti-union campaigns,
Mm-hmm.
hired consultants.
Mm-hmm.
They even created their own internal website
I know.
dedicated to discouraging workers from joining unions.
That's right.
It sounds like they're really committed to
Yeah.
keeping unions out.
Absolutely.
What does that tell us
Right.
about the future
Yeah.
of labor organizing at Amazon? Is it even possible
Mm.
to achieve lasting change given, their resources, their
Yeah.
determination?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Right.
The ALU proved that it's possible to win,
Yeah.
but as we've seen, the battle doesn't end there.
Right.
The real challenge
Yeah.
is securing that fair contract,
Yeah.
building a sustainable movement
Mm-hmm.
that can withstand Amazon's opposition.
So where do things stand now? Has the ALU been able to secure a contract at JFK 8?
As of today, no,
Oh.
they have not.
Negotiations are ongoing, but the progress has been slow and contentious.
Yeah.
Amazon's been accused of delaying tactics and not bargaining in good faith.
So that's disheartening.
Yeah.
And not entirely surprising,
Yeah.
given everything that we've learned
Yeah.
about their approach
Yeah.
to unions. It sounds like this is a story that's still being written.
It is, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
It's inspiring to see how that initial spark at JFK8 has kind of ignited this larger movement.
It has.
We've seen these similar efforts gain momentum
Mm-hmm.
at Starbucks, Trader Joe's, other companies that were once considered union-proof.
Yeah,
It seems like there's a real shift happening
I think so.
in the way people are thinking about
Right.
workers' rights.
I agree. There's definitely a sense that, like, the old rules are being
Mhm.
challenged.
Mm.
For decades, unions have been on the decline.
Right.
But now we're seeing this resurgence,
Hmm.
especially among younger workers
Right.
who aren't willing to accept low wages,
Right.
poor conditions, lack of voice.
Yeah, and the documentary does a great job of highlighting that,
Yeah.
that generational shift.
Mm-hmm.
Madeline Wesley, the salt we talked about earlier,
Yeah.
she's like a perfect example
Yeah.
of this new breed of organizers
Mm-hmm.
who are, tech savvy,
Right.
media aware,
Yeah.
unafraid to take on corporate power.
And they're using new tools and tactics
Yeah.
to connect with workers.
Like what?
I mean, social media
Oh, yeah.
played a huge role,
Right.
allowing workers to share their stories,
Yeah.
build solidarity,
Mm-hmm.
mobilize support
Yeah.
in ways that were unimaginable just a few years ago.
It's a reminder that organizing isn't just about,
Yeah.
handing out leaflets,
Yeah.
holding rallies anymore. It's
Right.
about meeting workers where they are,
Mm-hmm.
online, offline,
Yeah.
speaking to their concerns
Right.
in a language they understand.
And it's about building those coalitions
Right.
and alliances
Yeah.
with other groups
Yeah.
who share similar goals.
Right. We're seeing more and more collaborations
Yeah.
between, labor unions, community organizations, social justice groups.
Absolutely. It seems like the lines are blurring
Yeah.
between traditional labor issues
Right.
and broader social concerns.
Yeah, for many workers, it's not just about a living wage. It's
Right.
about, racial justice,
Mm.
environmental sustainability,
Yeah.
a more equitable society.
It's all interconnected.
So what does this all mean for the future
Yeah.
of the labor movement? Is this resurgence just a blip,
Right.
or are we witnessing a fundamental shift in power?
That's the question, isn't it?
Right.
It's hard to say for sure, but there's definitely momentum building.
Yeah.
The ALU's victory and the other successful campaigns,
Mm-hmm.
they've shown that it's possible
Yeah.
to challenge corporate power.
Yeah.
And
But winning an election is just the first step.
right, exactly.
The real test is whether these unions can secure those fair contracts,
Mm.
build strong organizations,
Yeah.
withstand that inevitable pushback.
It's going to be tough.
Yeah.
So for our listener who's been with us on this deep dive,
Yeah.
what are the key takeaways here?
Yeah. What should they be thinking about?
I think the biggest takeaway is that the fight for workers' rights,
Mm-hmm.
it's far from over.
Yeah.
It's a battle that's being waged every day
Right.
in workplaces large and small,
Yeah.
all across the country.
Mm-hmm. And the outcome of that battle will have a profound impact
Absolutely.
on the future of our economy,
Yeah.
for society.
It's a reminder that we all have a role to play in shaping that future.
Yeah.
Whether we're workers, consumers, investors, or just citizens,
Right.
our choices and actions can either support
Mm-hmm.
or undermine
Yeah.
these efforts to create a more just and equitable world.
Well said. Well said. This has been an incredibly insightful deep dive.
It has.
We've learned about the origins of the ALU,
Mm-hmm.
the strategies they used
Yeah.
to win that historic victory at JFK8,
Right.
and the ongoing challenges they face
Yeah.
in securing that fair contract.
Absolutely.
We've also explored the implications of this movement
Yeah.
for the future of labor organizing.
We've seen how individual courage
Hmm.
and collective action can make a real difference,
Yeah.
even against seemingly insurmountable odds.
So thank you for joining us on this deep dive
Yeah, thanks for having me.
into the world of the Amazon Labor Union. We hope it's left you with, a renewed appreciation
Yeah.
for the importance of workers' rights
Absolutely.
and a sense of hope for the future
Mhm.
of the labor movement.